Remember that old schoolyard taunt, first comes love, then comes marriage, then comes baby in the baby carriage. Well, some modern-day singles are after the baby in the baby carriage, but have no intention of falling in love or getting married.
Single men and women are seeking a partner with whom they can conceive a baby through in vitro fertilization and then share equally in all aspects and responsibilities that come with raising a child. It's a concept many divorced parents are familiar with, and after a marriage ends, mom and dad continue to co-parent their children. Well, now men and women are fast-forwarding that scenario without first becoming a couple.
And that may be all well and good for the platonic parents, but what about the kids? We're joined now by social worker Gary Dernfeld. Are these men and women being anything other than incredibly selfish by securing a kid this way?
You know what, I'd go further. I think it's narcissism on steroids. You know, it's one thing, when we're already married, we have an intention to be together as parents and it doesn't work out, and we're making the best of a lousy situation. It's quite another thing to knowingly go forward into that kind of situation to create a child for that purpose. I think that's immoral.
Gary, this kind of arrangement's been going on for quite some time within the gay community as they same-sex partners, the men try and figure out, a way to have a child. And the
wait a minute. That's not the same thing.
No, I know. But what I'm saying is the controversy seems to be prompted by now single heterosexual men who are opting to look out for the partner that they can have a child with. First of all, do we have do we treat men differently? Are we more judgmental about a man who wants to be a father?
For me, the issue, this isn't a gender issue. What is at stake here is taking a child and willingly bringing it into the world, knowing that this child has to be raised a certain portion of the time here and a certain portion of the time there. Would you, as an adult, say, I'm going to take half my life and live it in somebody else's home? How would you, as an adult, knowingly like to do that? Would you settle into that? You know, maybe. Would that be your first choice? Absolutely not. So it's one thing to do this as a result of a parental separation or divorce. Again, we're making the best of a poor situation. It's yet quite another thing to willfully procreate, to bring a child into a situation that won't be optimal for the child. That doesn't make sense to me. I suggest to people, try doing that with the dog. See how well that's going to work for you. Now, I'm going to make everyone who's an animal lover crazy at that suggestion because they will automatically see the folly of that.
The phone lines are already they're already ringing. Gary, critics will say that you're preparing the child for life. And, every child doesn't get, unfortunately, doesn't get the love and affection of both parents at the same time for their entire childhood. Yeah. It just doesn't work that way. That's real. To say, two adults, for example, say, look, we don't want to get married, we don't want to have a relationship, but you'd make a great mother and I'd make a great father, so let's do that. Is the child really, suffering? If the child still has love from each parent individually and a loving home, a place to stay, 3 squares, roof over their heads, is that such a bad thing? Or better not to bring this child into that world at all?
You know what? There are optimal conditions for raising a kid. And so if I were a gambler, don't gamble with me because I'm going to slip a couple aces up my sleeve. I always want to start with the optimal conditions. And so the optimal conditions still for raising kids is an intact 2-parent family. Next to that, single-parent family. Next to that, perhaps separated, divorced, and we are co-parenting. We're doing this parallel parenting thing. I think we're just heading for tragedy for these kids, knowingly, willingly bringing them into situations where the parents have nothing to do with each other, and then thinking after 5 years, these co-parents are still going to get along? Come on.
Okay, so let's put aside the fact that you don't necessarily agree with the concept. I want to ask you, because out there we're going to, that's not going to change. I want to ask you though, women for forever have been thinking, always have their eye on, or quite often are thinking about when am I going to have kids, I want to have kids. So it's not, that's no surprise that a woman would want to do it. Now that men are doing it, does it suggest something positive that men are becoming more nurturing and are more family focused?
Great move.
Yeah.
Great move. I think men are becoming more nurturing, and I applaud that. We need to have that. And by the way, rather than this co-parenting thing, if you were a single guy and you want to raise a kid on your own, then do so. Find a surrogate, adopt, do these other things, but necessarily subjecting the kid to 2 separate domiciles, 2 separate parents, 2 separate parenting styles, not a good way to start. But
Gary,
nurturing, that's great.
We've got about 30 seconds. I suggest to you that there are plenty of, and will continue to be plenty of, well-adjusted, happy children whose parents were never a couple.
True.
Okay. So
But on balance, well, on balance, we need to concern ourselves with the large group of people. And on balance, kids will be better served typically being raised in a 2-parent intact family. That's not to say that we don't have good kids from other structures. And when we don't have the optimal situation, we try to put other services and structures in place to provide for a better outcome. That's okay.
That is social worker extraordinaire Gary Dernfeld. Always a pleasure, sir. Thanks for joining.
Great to be with you.